Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One Deck Galaxy soundtrack release and listening party. My name is Jean-Marc Giffen, and I am a music composer, mostly working with Handelabra games. So, people in the chat, tell us where you're from and how you're doing. Today we'll be... Oh, I haven't introduced you yet. Hold on. It's supposed to be a surprise that you're there. Just a sec. Today we will be listening to the music from the soundtrack of One Deck Galaxy, the follow-up to the hit game One Deck Dungeon from Asmodee Games. Whoa! Speaking of Asmodee Games, I'm joined today by 3 members of the famous indie tabletop gaming studio. First, we have Chris Cieslik, the lead designer and creator of the One Deck series and many of Asmodee games. Please introduce yourself. If you know about those other games, please don't spoil them. And we're also joined by Asmodee Games senior. Oh, oops, I don't. It's not. Okay, sorry. Oh, this worked before, and now it doesn't. Okay. All right. Now I have to fix. I have to fix this in real time. Sorry.
The real stream, if there's no tech troubles.
Does anyone hear that now?
Oh, there we go.
I hear Joe through the stream.
I just heard Joe.
Cool.
All right.
We
Sorry
are
about that,
good.
but let's rewind to the part where you say stuff, Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris. I run Asmodee Games. I have made many decks, many dungeons, some galaxies. There's also top secret games that we're working on that are big and small, or maybe big and small at the same time. So I am excited. The soundtracks for Dungeon and Galaxy are both wonderful. Jean-Marc did a bunch of work on the new one, and some work on the old one. And it's just exciting to have music for games.
Yes, it's always fun to add a musical element to existing tabletop games because generally speaking, they don't come with them. So thank you. That's Chris Cieslik, and we're also joined by Asmodee Games senior art director Rob Simmons, who's heavily involved in the art direction for One Deck Galaxy. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Rob. As Jean-Marc said, I'm the senior art director, so I oversee everything, art, illustration, design, layout, production, lots of manufacturing, fun packaging things. So I make the games look as pretty as they can, along with our team of extremely talented artists and illustrators. I'm excited about the soundtrack because I really enjoyed collaborating a lot with Amazon, getting the audio aesthetic to match up with our.
Your mic's cutting out again, Rob.
Yep, started
Okay.
doing the cutout thing.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Cutty.
Oh
That's-
no.
We heard
That's
most of it.
Discord.
We did hear
Yeah.
most of it.
Yep.
True.
And we are also joined today by surprise guests, at least surprise to me, Joe Kim. He is here for vibes, he said. So why don't you introduce yourself, Joe?
Yeah, hi, I'm Joe Kim. I'm the lead playtester for Asmodee Games, where Chris and I like to bounce ideas back and forth, and I like to try things out and make things better for everyone. So make sure that they are fun and challenging and enjoyable. So
Well, in my opinion, they are. So you're doing a great job.
thank you.
All of you making great games. They look great. They play great. They are clearly play tested. So for those of you who don't know, One Deck Galaxy came out in early access on Steam last year and has been released for PC, Mac, Linux, iPad, and Android tablets this year. However, we haven't released the soundtrack yet, until now. For each track, we'll go over some information about the upcoming track beforehand, and provide some information about how it was composed and sort of reactions and stuff afterwards. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first track we have for you is the main theme of One Deck Galaxy itself. This sets the tone and style for the game as a whole. During the video, you'll see artwork of the 5 homeworlds that are included in One Deck Galaxy and their backgrounds. So would you mind briefly explaining some context around those 5 homeworlds? Just something short about the Plum Plim, the Felici, Elements, Tim Tillywinks, and Zibzab.
Yeah, so these are all of the spacefaring species from the region of space known as Insula. And that region was designed for our Choose Your Own Adventure upcoming game called 1001 Odysseys. We decided to make One Deck Galaxy sort of a prequel to Odysseys in that it tells the story of the formation of the Federation. So each of these races is different, sort of interestingly unique people from around there. So the Plum Plim of Birmingham are sentient radish people. And are we getting images on the back for this, or?
They'll be seeing them during the video. So.
Oh, okay. So the Plum Plum of Birmingham are radish aliens.
I think they'll know which one the radish is.
Yeah. They are cute botanists and, ironically, not carnivores. That would be really weird. They specialize in just making everything out of plants, spaceships, buildings, whatever. It is all organic technology, and they're also cute and adorable. We also have, what order? It doesn't matter, I guess.
Felici.
The Felici of Aravine. They are cat-like people from the desert planet of Aravine, where they're sort of a noble warrior people in a way, but they have great arts, great cities. Some of the beautiful artwork we've had done for Odysseys shows like the watercolor presentations of these big worldscapes. Next up, we have the Elements of Jumanji. They are dragon people. They are administrators. They are scientists. They are overseers in a way. They sort of are the core of the Federation organization. So all of the stuffy but still good bureaucrats are often Elements. And their world is sort of a very hot place because they're dragons, obviously. There's volcanoes. There's lots of interesting stuff going on there.
Indeed.
Which brings us to the Tim Tillywinks of, oh God, where are the Tim Tillywinks from? Julia yells from the other room. I am blanking on the Tim Tillywinks homeworld.
I also.
Oh no!
Oh
Everyone
no!
goes directly to jail.
Sorry.
No,
None of us have played
No.
this game yet.
Hold on.
Oh my gosh,
There
it's
is-
at the tip of my tongue.
Anyway, Tim Tillywink are sort of piratey-looking aliens. They are masters of body enhancement, so they have lots of prosthetics technology, which kind of goes with the stereotypical pirate peg leg. But very often they will do things to enhance their physical capability by adding on things to their hands or their arms or their legs, and that plays into their salvage abilities in
Color cut.
There we
Color
go. Sorry, I was grabbing my deck.
the world of Cullicut, which is a beautiful world with lots of oceans and lots of not quite tropical, but very, very treeful realm. And finally, we have the Zibzab, who are the goofy rock aliens from the planet Braxicon. They are smarmy, they are smart, and they want to make sure you know that. because they're just doing everything. They're just doing everything right. They are engineers, they are tinkerers, and they are literally rocks. So yeah, those are the peoples of One Deck Galaxy. And,
All right, thanks.
Feel like the intergalactic contract is.
exactly.
All right, well, we can reflect on the track more afterwards, but for now, let's give a listen to the One Deck Galaxy theme. Clicked the wrong one. But we're back. All right. So, what are your thoughts about the One Deck Galaxy theme, Asmati?
Around the exploration space in the actual game itself. So I just think it fits really, really well.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. This Discord is kind of being messy, and I don't think your voices were coming through again.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. But anyway, it seems like you guys were happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, so overall, it's very loopably nice in ways that don't sort of override the gameplay. Sometimes, like, you can have a soundtrack in a tabletop-ish game that's too much, and this just peacefully stays in the background and is like, this is great. I want to listen to this, and it never really bothered us. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, this was a track I really enjoyed creating. There were certain musical textures that I really love, and One Deck Galaxy was the perfect project to use them for. So I really like arpeggios, which are when chords are played sequentially, like one note at a time, rather than playing all the notes of it together. And I really love beautiful like synth sounds with lots of reverb, like you hit one note and it just kind of like rings out, and that general like floating feeling that they give. So yeah, I was at home with my two younger kids once, and the kids wanted me to play on the piano, so I just started improvising, and then I started playing like and then when I heard that, I started adding some like bass notes to it, and then I was like, "Oh, kids, that's it. That's the theme for One Deck Galaxy." And they had
very
no
cool.
They had no idea what I was talking about.
Sure, but they, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, but they were like, "Oh, it sounds nice." So anyway, I went to write it down before I forgot what it was, and then yeah, later on, kind of converted it into used like all the instruments that I'd set up to convert it there. So yeah, I was pretty happy with it, and I felt like it came together pretty easily. Like I didn't struggle to know where to go with it, and it didn't require lots of revision or banging a head against the piano. So that was
And I
nice.
definitely remember it kind of immediately sort of hit the note and the theme that we were looking for just this sort of like nice, easy kind of explore your way around the galaxy, sort of figure out your way through the game kind of track. So yeah, it's really nice. It's again, like Chris said, it's just something that through hours and hours of testing and everything, I never got sick of listening to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you. That's great. Speaking of exploring, when we were creating the early access version of the game, we needed some music for, when you actually play the game, because that the previous track was during the menus and such. And so we weren't 100% sure what that would be yet, what is it based on and all that. but we needed to have something playing. So we only had one adversary implemented at the time, I think, and so I came up with some just general gameplay music, and I sent it over to the team at Asmadi, and then we immediately put it in the game. So yeah, here's the track that I came up with called Exploring the Cosmos. All right, we're back. Let me just do a quick test to make sure people can hear you.
Are we
Hello.
back?
Okay, I think it works now.
I think so too.
Yeah, so
Yay.
yeah, that was the gameplay music exploring the cosmos. What did you guys think when I sent this over to you?
So, gosh, I feel like some pieces of this and the other one intermixed at some point, but it has the same good background feel.
Hmm.
Like these two tracks are the ones that we heard first and were all the music for a very long time.
Yeah, it
And
was
that
all the
wasn't a
music.
problem. They were just good music for a long time, and it's not a set of tracks I've ever gotten sick of, which is nice.
Yeah, this in particular, I remember uh the thing that I enjoyed the most about it was just it's like, especially going from the main theme and menu music transitioning into the game from this, it's like it's such a natural transition that it almost it could fool you into thinking that it's just two parts of the same track,
Hmm.
which I thought was thematically just like really, really nice. It's a really just, yeah, it's like I said, it's just a really pleasant transition from one to the other. And I just think they blend together really well. And I don't know, Jean-Marc, if you have, anything that you would like to say about sort of how that ended up working so well, or how that came together. So, I mean, seemingly to us easily, I'm sure not as easily to you, but that's why you're the music expert.
Um, well, yeah, so for this one, I just kind of grabbed like a bunch of sounds and instruments that I really liked. Like I just went through like libraries and like, yep, this one. Nope, not that one. Yep, this one. And so I've just had this like big template. And then I started to like through compose it. So that means rather than having like a defined structure or anything, I just started playing something on one, maybe adding a few parts here and there, and then I moved on to like, okay, where does this naturally go to next? Like sort of like, I just try something and like, okay, yeah, it'll go there next. And like it doesn't really like repeat. It doesn't have like a verse chorus structure or anything like that. It was just sort of like a stream of ideas for I guess about 6 minutes of music, which I feel like is about the right length for a digital board game, since you spend a lot of time just sitting there thinking. There's not a lot of change of context like there might be in an RPG or something. And yeah, so sometimes composing that way doesn't work out so well, because like by the end what you get to is way different than what you started, because again, like you were just kind of making each part up as you go to the next part without you know thinking about how it loops or anything like that. But in this particular case though, like I just kind of I feel like it ended up working.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it worked really well.
Yeah, so
Yeah, for sure. I've loved it the whole time.
yeah, so yeah, and that's great, because yeah, you guys were pretty enthusiastic about it when I sent it over. And so for a long time, like as you said, Chris, like this was the entire music. It was the theme during the menus and then the gameplay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, despite having this music, we weren't entirely sure how it would work, because obviously we didn't only want to have one gameplay track for every single game. We could have come up with like, a number of different ones, and then it just picks one at random or whatever. But in most of our games, we identify something that changes between game sessions. So like in Sentinels, it's the environments. In One Deck Dungeon, it's the dungeons, which dungeons you're in. And so this is sort of our reference point. And so we thought, okay, well, it makes sense to focus on the adversary. But one, I didn't really want to lose that sense of exploration that the one we just played had when you're beginning. And to me, at least, it didn't make sense to focus on the adversary right from the beginning. Because in the beginning, you're usually just more focused on like exploring and getting yourself set up. And at the beginning, the adversary isn't usually as big of a threat as they become later. And so I thought, like, well, what if it plays the exploring music at first, but then when the adversary does become a threat, it starts to play music based on the adversary going from that point forward.
Yeah, this was a fun idea.
Yeah, I think it's something that we identified pretty early on, after having these first two sort of main tracks, that like we really liked the idea that the situation could sort of escalate once you got your bearings and things started to really roll. So yeah, it was my other favorite thing about that track is that it also dovetails really well and really easily into the different adversary tracks, which we're going to get to next, I believe, right?
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much as soon as you get a warning that an overwhelm is coming, that's when it switches to adversary mode, and then it remains that way for the rest of the game, just because it would be kind of jarring to go back and forth. So yeah, let's go through each of the adversaries one by one. So first up, we've got the Nibelwuber colony fleet. Chris, what can you tell them about us? What can you tell us about them?
So the Nibelwubers are sort of the snarky, very sure of themselves cephalopods of the Insula world. And they're actually members of the real Federation of 1001 Odysseys, so they sort of reformed their ways by the time we get to that point in the timeline. But they're everywhere. And they think that every world should be an ocean world because they like ocean worlds.
Indeed.
So your objective is to stop them from doing that thing.
All right. So, without further ado, and for these adversary videos, we only have a limited amount of artwork to show off, but the artwork is really good. So, let's give a listen to the Nibelwuber's colony fleet. Okay. So, any thoughts about the Nibelwoobers?
The Nibelwoober. So I want to say this was the first one we finished.
It was.
Yeah. So this is the one that is probably closest musically to the normal background music.
Mm-hmm.
But it still felt distinct enough that it was a good extension. And, from there we were able to jump off and do even wilder things with the other four,
Right.
Yeah.
which I thought was fun.
The thing I really like about this being sort of thematically still pretty close to the other two is like typically, especially if you're doing if you're especially doing your first couple of games, like Nibelwoober is generally meant to be the easiest sort of starting adversary when you're learning or when you're just kind of feeling your way through your first couple games of Galaxy. So it doesn't feel quite as sinister and threatening as some of the adversary themes that we'll hear later. It feels like a little bit more of a natural progression of the main theme and the exploration theme. So it all transitions like very, very smoothly, but you do get that sense of like escalation of like, okay, I'm dealing with an adversary now. And like the track itself has that great progression of sort of impending, not doom, but seriousness of like what's going on around you in the game. So I just think that it's another layer of this really, really good progression we have from the main theme to exploration to now the adversaries.
Yeah, and I was hoping that it would, to a certain extent, feel seamless, but a certain extent feel like, oh, something has actually changed here, because before it felt like, oh, I could just float around and do whatever I want forever, and now you can't.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it nails that feeling.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, usually when I write a track about a character, I try and get some adjectives that fit the character, and then it's up to me to find a way to, like, how to make that fit into the style of the game. So, by this point, the tone and style of One Deck Galaxy had been set. So I knew that I would be using some of those more spacious synths to achieve results. So the adjectives I got for the Nibelwoobers were watery, flowy, regal, and pompous. So again, like arpeggios. Yeah, so arpeggios are great for giving a flowy motion to music. And I tried to find some sounds that were somewhat watery, but, I don't know that I found anything that was like really perfect. Like it was like, oh yeah, that's definitely a watery synth, but I think the ones that ended up there are pretty good.
I definitely think it's reminiscent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I think the main sort of arpeggio melody that starts out is, I would classify that as watery, because I remember our iterations of this. We experimented a lot with some like much sort of like harder water and regal sounds. Like even I think at one point we may have had a couple of like sort of space trumpety sounding things in there, and we just decided that was a little too much and pulled that back. But yeah, well, I remember this one we really played around with a lot of different sort of sound profiles of like what we thought they would sound like, and we settled on this sort of gentle yet somewhat sinister water melody. It's just not like over the top, like you're drowning, like Sonic in a labyrinth or something like that.
Yeah, the panic.
Inducing stress in everybody.
Yeah, when I was a kid, that was the most like stressful thing in a
the
video
most stressful
game.
sound.
Because it's
ever.
very it's scary.
Yeah.
It is the most stressful sound in gaming.
Yeah.
Especially because
So
the
we didn't
rest
want
of the
that.
music is so much fun. But anyway, off topic. I mean, I was gonna say, more about it, but you basically just covered what I was gonna say. So.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's good. It means that.
It means you did your job, right? We are understanding your vision.
Yes,
So.
other people understand what I'm doing. So yeah, next up we've got the optimize. Oh my goodness, I cannot say words. Optimization calibrator. I spelt it right in my notes, but what can we learn about the OC, Chris?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it works better when you're not
So-
muted.
Yeah, the optimization calibrator is the galactic Facebook of this. It is
It's my favorite adversary.
Yeah.
I love this
Yeah.
stupid thing.
it, and this was before AI went completely bonkers in the past year or two. It's just the concept of this, supercomputer that knows what you should do and tells you what to do.
It's
So
the algo.
Exactly, it's the algorithm. So yeah, that is what it does.
All right. So let's listen to the optimization calibrator. Wow, so optimized. What do you think, Asmati?
You have all been calibrated.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a really fun one. It's got a very different motif with the do 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 at the in the bass line. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I would say this is so. OptCal is my favorite adversary for just like the kind of theming of it, and um, this is also probably my favorite track. I just think it fits so well, and it's this sort of like the very kind of sinister. Now we're really getting into the sinister bass line and everything, and what I really like is that it really, for me, evokes this feeling of almost like old school kind of space horror where you're trapped out in the vacuum of space with this technology that's bent on ruining your, or what it thinks is fixing your existence, but it's actually ruining your existence, and it's just like you're sort of stuck with you and it, and you have to just figure out a way to escape or beat it. And it's just like I really love the way that it just keeps that sort of dark tone throughout, and then like sort of mixes in those nice kind of creepy, almost creepy tech type effects towards the end of the track. So yeah, I think this one's my favorite.
Yeah, this one was fun to make. I actually like this adversary a lot too. And the adjectives I got for this one were techie, precise, and an eviler Facebook.
Even more evil Facebook. Wow.
So yeah, I don't know if I got all of those, but I do like doing music that sounds like technology because it gives me the chance to use some synths from old video game machines. And anyone who knows me knows that I love me some chip tunes, at least the good ones anyway. So, but it's also really nice to like add effects to those old sounds, so they like have this sort of like mix of old and new, because the original ones, like you couldn't apply effects to it. It was like it just played it and it was always super dry. So like adding a lot of reverb or making it do some sort of Doppler effect or anything like that, adding that to old square waves and stuff, for me it gives it a really neat feel. All right, so yeah, next up we have the adversary, the Preservation Authority. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this was the fifth adversary I designed. Their deal is that they are sort of old ones kind of aliens. They're bigger. They're not interested in the day-to-day affairs of small planets. So they just treat the galaxy like a zoo, and they just want to preserve everything by encasing it in ice. Nice and safe.
Yeah, I mean,
Safe forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain amount of nobility in that. Let's give a listen to the Preservation Authority. All right. Do we all feel well preserved? How do you feel, Asmati?
I feel
Yeah.
colder.
It's a very
I'm so very
calm,
sleepy.
meandering track that's just like it doesn't care what you're doing. It's just it's moving around, and
Yeah,
that's
I-
part of what makes it work.
I definitely get the sort of like icy, sort of stasis-y feeling from it.
Mhm.
And it's almost like, cold unfeeling, and that really is like, that's preservation authority. Like, they don't really care. They're doing their thing, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where, like, when I saw the artwork and sort of got the concept of it, like, I had a pretty distinct sound of it in my head, and so I was kind of happy. I was happy when, like, Chris confirmed my intuition. He's like, it should sound like a beautiful but somewhat evil garden. It's peaceful but with a hint of wrongness. And I'm like, yeah, like, just sort of this, like, yeah, like, do 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 do.
As a description.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like something weird here is going on.
Yeah.
And that really, for me, that gets cemented towards the end of the track. There's like some of those nice kind of like gentle sounds start to get
I'm cutting out again.
Oh, you got to cut out time. Rip.
Let's see if it fixes itself.
Discord.
You okay
DC
there, Rob?
sometimes.
Uh-oh.
You might have just disconnected.
I think he got preserved.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah. Oh, well. That's too bad.
Welcome back.
So yeah, and I mean, one thing that listeners might notice is that, like, compared to the bad guys of our other games, like, where they're up in front villains, where they're like, I'm doing a bad thing, you can't stop me, wah ha ha, the more you try to stop me, the more I'll destroy everything, The adversaries in this game definitely aren't that
No.
up in front and center about their evilness. And so, like, there's definitely, like, sort of a mixture of, like, oh, this part's really pretty and relaxing. Oh, this part isn't. This is unsettling. Wait, this is all right. Like, and so that's pretty deliberate, because in One Deck Galaxy, the adversaries aren't necessarily, like, out to destroy you and get revenge and all that. They have their own ideas and ambitions, and it happens to be the case that those are a hindrance to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Dark Star next, I think.
Actually, next up we have the Hungry Nebula.
Oh, the Hungry Nebula.
Yeah.
So, much like the Hungry Nebula is a giant nebula, as you might imagine,
Mm-hmm.
that slowly expands and sort of swallows things. And it's not clear what happens when things get swallowed by the Hungry Nebula. But people are like, probably don't want this. Everything inside there is really weird. But like the other adversaries in One Deck One Deck Galaxy, they're not necessarily evil. It's just a thing that is in opposition to you. I am always a fan of complex villainry when possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like cookie cutter evil, and we try and skew away from that with the writing for 1001 Odysseys. And surely it extends here into One Deck Galaxy.
Yeah. So let's give a listen to the Hungry Nebula. Well, I feel like I've just been eaten by outer space. What about you two? 3.
Well, less of
Uh,
an eating.
the Hungry Nebula. People love and hate this guy, and I love him so much. So
It's fine.
It's like, what if Kirby was a black hole in space?
Yeah.
Like, what's the matter with that? That's cute.
He's cute.
Nothing bad can happen at all.
Kirby's cute. I don't know if I would see... If I saw the Hungry Nebula, I don't know that I would say, hey, that's pretty cute. But yeah.
I mean, as far as nebulas go, it's pretty cute.
But how do you feel about the track? I know you were commenting on it while it was playing, and we were muted.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I actually think we didn't usually have to go back and forth much, because it just seemed like we came together and agreed pretty easily on theme for most of the other ones. But this one, definitely there was a little more back and forth in terms of just like, once we heard something, we actually then were not sure that we wanted to convey what we initially thought, and we had to come back and say, okay, you know what, maybe this is sounding too techy, or maybe this, especially those like boo sounds. Like there was a lot of back and forth about like how intense should that be, like how often should they happen, like do we want it to feel more jarring or more sort of in the background, kind of like this unsettling sound. And I think we eventually came down somewhere in the middle that really worked for it. Almost like, to me in my head, it's like I get this visual of almost an object in space that every time you hear one of those like boo sound effects, it's something being pulled out of an orbit or whatever into the Hungry Nebula itself. It's just like it's consuming another thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was definitely more intense than some of the other tracks. Like, it's pretty relentless in how it just keeps going and going and pulling things down and spinning one over. Like, a lot of this track in particular was more of like a perpetual effect. And, that effect was sort of more important than everything else. So hopefully it worked for everyone. So by the way, to everyone who's come out to this stream, thank you. I know it was sort of short notice in terms of telling everyone, except for Asmati, who was on the ball and told people on Monday. But later on, we'll be doing a soundtrack giveaway. So we'll be doing it in the chat. So if you'd like to enter the giveaway to maybe win a copy of the soundtrack, make sure you have your text chat working by the end of the stream. So if you're not logged in, you might want to make sure you are, because then it shows you an ad and all that stuff. Or if you're not following or whatever. So, we'd like to have everyone have a fair shot at winning a copy of the soundtrack. All right, let's move on to our final adversary, which is the Dark Star Syndicate. What's going on with these guys, Chris?
The Dark Star Syndicate are a group of quote-unquote scientists who, more like pseudoscientists, who have a very simple idea for how to make the world and the universe better. Turn off all the stars. They should be dark. It's too bright. So they have lots of weird experiments that are all kind of like bad ideas. They don't necessarily mean ill. They're just, blundering around doing bad science.
Yes, science gone wrong is quite unfortunate. I hope they at least share their findings. Anyway, let's hear the sounds of the Dark Star Syndicate. Well, I would say it's lights out over here. What about you guys?
Yeah, I like that one a lot. The the early midsection with like the sort of chimey piano and all that stuff going on in the background is some of my favorite from the whole soundtrack.
Hmm.
It just really is a unique set of sounds. Great.
Yeah, the terms I got for this one were scientific, sinister, earnest, not evil, but very pointed. Um, so, but yeah, even so, doing this one felt probably the closest to doing like uh, a regular bad guy musical theme from one of our other games, where the character has a clear goal and it's not beneficial to most people. But yeah, to be fair, they're probably more reasonable than the villains usually are. This is especially true of Aeon's End, where they're just like pure terrors all the time.
Oh yeah, those are just monsters.
But yeah, but this one has sort of a more darker but committed tone to it. Yeah, so that wraps up the adversaries, but there's still 2 more tracks to play. These ones are shorter. Those are the tracks that play when you either lose the game or win the game. Of course, we want you to win the game, but you probably won't always win because it's not intended to be easy. Yeah, do you want to talk about the game's difficulty and the balancing there? Because that's always interesting too.
Yeah, so One Deck Dungeon famously was extremely hard in its first release, and we toned it down a little bit. But the goal for a solo game is not to win every single time you play, in general, because it's more interesting if the game is pushing against you. This is certainly true for Spirit Island also, especially at the harder difficulty levels. That's a spicy challenge. So we want to make sure there's good balance between winning and losing.
Yeah, and I know, Joe Kim, you have a lot of input into trying to get it just right.
Yeah. So Chris is very good at his games. I am not as good at his games, and so having the different perspectives of like how his brain works versus my brain works and our different strategies to take on the adversaries was really helpful. And having I mean, and seeing how the other playtesters are doing, and like I go, wow, there are people that are way better at this game than I am, and people that are way worse because we go to shows and things like that, and people are like, "This is so hard. I don't understand how we did this." I'm like, you just gotta think about it from a different angle, and I think we got the difficulty on these pretty good. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think the difficulty feels about right. And, if it's too easy, you can do the hard mode. If it's too hard, maybe there's an easier adversary. And so, yeah, and I mean, like some combinations of societies and homeworlds make certain adversaries specifically easier.
very difficult. Yeah, agree.
So, all right. Well, let's first start off with the scenario that people are trying to avoid, but will probably come across, which is defeat. Of course, as mentioned, that's not the outcome you want, is it?
Hmm.
Although it's not, necessarily as devastating as defeat could be. You'll get another chance.
Hopefully, you've at least ticked off some progress on the campaign sheets.
Yeah, there you go. You want victory, and pretty soon we'll be playing the One Deck Galaxy victory music. I'd like to point out that it actually took 2 attempts to get the victory music right.
That's it.
Yeah, because, I wanted it to sound very much like the game's theme, but more upbeat and triumphant. And so the first version I sent to Asmati team, they're like, oh, this is like a Mario Kart victory lap. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. It's not the right style. Like, I think it was a little too upbeat and like Nintendo-ish. Like, and so they recommended that I, slow it down and try to match the feel of the rest of the game a little bit better. And I'm glad they did, because the new version, I think, turned out way better than the first one.
Yeah.
But
So the giveaway time?
Yeah, do we do giveaways?
yeah,
This is
it's
the
time
last
for
track.
the giveaway. So,
Alright.
so after the stream ends, the One Deck Galaxy soundtrack was out on Steam, Apple Music, Spotify, and so on. But yeah, we also have a few Steam keys to give away. So let's play a little game to see who gets to win them. So why don't you tell us what you're doing there, Chris?
Yeah, so for this giveaway, I have in front of me 30 One Deck Galaxy dice. That's all the dice from the set. I'm going to roll them all, and whoever guesses the total of all of the dice closest without going over will win this giveaway for a key.
All right. So start putting your guesses into the chat. Remember, 30 dice.
30 total dice.
Right? So,
And they're 6-sided standard die, Galaxy dice. It's not a D20 or anything.
Yeah. It might be hard to do the a full statistical analysis on that, but take a guess.
So yeah, if anybody wants to guess, throw some numbers in chat, and it's Price is Right, close without going over. So we'll give it another minute or so if anybody else wants to get your guesses in there.
Yeah.
You could win an entire soundtrack.
I recommend picking a number between 30 and 180. I don't recommend picking anything outside that.
I
For
roll.
mathematical reasons untold.
All right. Yeah, we've got some good guesses there. 88, 90, and 125.
Keeping in mind, this is Chris, so he rolls extremely well because he's a cheater.
Annoyingly well.
Ivy would
Nonsense.
like to help with the roll.
Now he's got the Ivy cat bonus, so it's going to be even higher.
All right, I'm going to roll these dice in 10 seconds.
Okay.
9, 8.
Get your guesses
Come on,
in.
please.
And then you'll have
Any
to
last
add
second
them up.
guesses?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's easy. You got an optimization calibrator here. So you can hear all these dice rolling, maybe. And here we go. That's a lot of 6s. Holy crap.
See?
All right. I'm adding up dice here. It's 10, 20, 30. You don't have the camera here. 40,
No, we don't.
50, 60, 70, 80,
Oh boy.
90,
Sorry, Kate.
100, 107.
Wow.
All right.
107.
That's wild, actually, though.
So I believe that makes Hankroyd the winner of this giveaway.
Yes, it does.
So, jean-marc, you will find a way to get them a key.
I
and they
will.
will
Yes,
get
I
them.
will. I think /whisper, right? I just want to make sure before I do that, and then it's like that doesn't work. And
I
then
don't-
everybody
It might
gets
even
the
be
key.
/W.
I don't think
is
/whisper. I don't think that works at all.
Oh,
No?
Somebody
Oh,
told
you
me
just
that
have to
was
click
what you
somebody's
do.
name and.
Okay.
Well,
click
you
the
can,
name and
you
click
can click the
whisper.
name in chat and click whisper. And
You should get them to message you on Discord. That's
All right.
probably the better way to do it. Is the real answer here.
No,
Yeah, there's no whisper command. That will just put it in chat.
Oh, I have to verify my phone number in order to do this. Okay.
Oh dear lord.
Uh,
Please send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Hungry Nebula in Burbank, California,
Well,
91719.
you can
Alright.
give instructions to receive a message on Discord asking for the code.
I'll try one more. Oh, for goodness sake.
Oh,
Okay.
Twitch, you are so
Um,
So congratulations.
Hank Royd, I want to send you the code and it won't let me.
Well, I can send the code. Just give me the code.
Okay, I will send it to you in our working thing.
Uh-huh.
Proj
All right.
ODG.
There's a code. I sent it to you in direct message, Hank Royd. Let me know if you didn't get it or did get it.
All right, congratulations.
We will declare
Should we do one more? Should we do one more? I think we can do one more.
Yeah, it's up to you.
All right, I've got one more.
All right, we're gonna do one more giveaway. So I'm gonna roll some dice again. So if everyone wants to give a second round of guesses, you are welcome to it. And I'm gonna roll these dice in 1 minute.
Yeah, your previous guesses don't count anymore.
Yeah, no, the other guesses are gone.
So if only one person answers, then the odds are pretty good. Okay, we've got 145.
All right, 125.
Negative 42.
That's definitely the right one.
I think that's going to win, but you never know.
I don't know. It could be lowest without giving over and go over.
All right.
The Dark Star Syndicate is experimenting with dice, and now there are negative numbers on it.
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
You know what? This all makes sense. I can see that.
All right.
I'm gonna play the Mario Kart music.
We've got a 145 and a 125.
All right, 10 seconds. Last chances for everybody.
And a 1. Okay.
I'm gonna roll these dice in 3, 2, 1. This roll is more average.
Oh,
I lied.
boy.
That's a whole lot of 6s.
Oh gosh.
30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 119, 119.
All right. Oh, Pala wins.
So Pal is the winner with
Nice.
$1.
A brilliant guess of 1.
1. All right.
Close.
Thanks,
That's
so
everybody.
funny.
1 not being one of the possible outcomes.
That's so funny.
Incredible.
All right. I sent.
I was a gamer.
So that's gonna wrap up our participations. We're gonna play the winning victory music to close out the stream.
Yeah. So just a sec. Let me. All right. So yeah, we'll send over the keys. Of course, if you didn't win a copy, you're still able to stream it in many locations. And if you really want to support us, and we thank you for that, you can even buy a copy of it. I don't know
That
about
would just be
everyone
swell.
else, but I still buy music albums. But anyway, with all that, let's wrap up here and play the One Deck Galaxy victory music right afterwards. Any final words from any of you as Asmati?
Thanks everyone for listening. It was fun. It's a soundtrack we're really happy with, and excited you all got to hear it.
Yeah. We're just pumped for everybody to listen and enjoy and continue enjoying Galaxy. Thanks for chatting and hanging out with us.
Yeah.
I look
Thanks.
forward to playing more games with everyone. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks again for coming. Asmati for making such a great tabletop game and all its beautiful artwork, to Handelabra Games for adapting it to digital, to Krista Constantine for making all these great videos, to Galen Conroy for mastering the music, and of course to all of you for coming to listen, either live or watching it later on YouTube. We're going to have the One Deck Galaxy victory music take us out. Take care, everyone, and keep exploring the galaxy.